I reset the entire NHL back to 2007, and we are going to simulate and see how differently the NHL is compared to today, as we are going to have players like Sidney Crosby and Alexander Ovechkin in the prime of their career. Actually, Crosby in 2007 didn't even win a Stanley Cup yet in his entire career, so we are starting off very young. It's going to be a very different NHL compared to what we're used to in these simulations. So without further ado, let's go ahead and take a look at every single roster for every single team in the NHL here in 2007. So on the Anaheim Ducks, we have guys like Chris Pronger, Scott Niedermayer, Ryan Getzlaf, and Teemu Selanne, who's an 88. They also have a young Corey Perry. I mean, it says he's 38 years old, but that's because EA Sports does not allow you to change players' ages. I don't know why that's not a thing. Chris Kunitz is also on the team at an 85 overall. And in goal, who do they have? J.S. Jaguar at an 89 overall. And Jonas Hiller. Man, Jonas Hiller. Memories are coming back to me right now. Now, Arizona is going to have Shane Doan, their captain, and pretty much nobody else in goal. They're going to be going with Ilya Bryzgalov, who is a 90 overall. The Boston Bruins are going to have Zdeno Chara at a 92. Mark Savard is there at an 88. Bergeron's only an 87. David Krejci's still on the team. In goal, they're rocking with Tim Thomas. Buffalo is going to have Derek Roy, Jason Pominville, Thomas Vanek is on the team. Very different roster than compared to today, obviously. And in goal, obviously, it's going to be Ryan Miller. The Calgary Flames are going to have Jerome McGinley at a 92. Dion Phaneuf at a 90, which is actually crazy. And in goal, they're going to be rocking with Mika Kiprusoff, who just got honored in one of the recent Calgary games. I believe his number got retired. The Carolina Hurricanes are going to have Eric Stahl at a 90. Rod Brindamore is there, who is their current coach. He's an 88. They got Ray Whitney on the team at an 86. And in goal, they're going to be going with Cam Ward, who's an 87. Chicago is going to have a very young Patrick Kane and Jonathan Toews. Duncan Keith is still there. Martin Havlat is their best player at an 88, and in goal, they're going to be going with Nikolai Habibulin. The Colorado Avalanche are going to have Paul Stastny on the team, 88. Joe Sakic is still there at an 87. Peter Forsberg is also on the roster. Columbus is going to be rocking with their best player in their franchise's history, who is Rick Nash. Dallas is going to have Brad Richards at an 88 overall. Mike Ribeiro, who's also an 88. Mike Modano is on the team as well. And in goal, they're going to be rocking with Marty Turco at an 87. The Detroit Red Wings are going to have Nick Lidstrom at a 93. Pavel Datsyuk, who's also a 93. Henrik Zetterberg is there. Nicholas Kronwall is an 87. This team is one of the best in the entire league. The Edmonton Oilers are not going to be the Edmonton Oilers of today. No Connor McDavid or Leon Draisaitl, but instead, Ales Hemsky is their best player at an 87. Sean Horkoff is there at an 86. Sam Gagner is also still on the team. Florida is going to have Olli Jokinen. Jay Bouwmeester is there. Not really much else. I mean, David Booth is on the team. And in goal, I believe they're going with Thomas Vokoun. LA is still going to have Anze Kopitar. Dustin Brown is back on the roster at an 87. Mike Camilleri is there. No Drew Doughty, though. I don't believe he got drafted yet. And in goal, they're going to have Jason Laberrieux. I probably butchered that name. And a young Jonathan Quick, even though it says he's 37 years old. Minnesota is going to be rocking with Marian Gaborik and Mikko Koivu. Montreal will have Alex Kovalev and Andrei Markov, as well as Tomas Turtleneck Plekanec. Saku Koivu is also on the roster as well, and they're rocking with an 87 overall. Very young Carey Price and Yaroslav Halak. Nashville is going to have Jason Arnett and really not much else. I mean, Alexander Radulov is on the team. He's very young. Shea Weber is a young player, only an 85 overall. New Jersey is going to have Zach Parise, Patrick Elias, Brian Giunta, who I believe was their captain for a little bit. He was the captain in Montreal as well, was he not? How did this guy get so many captaincies? 5'7", not a big guy whatsoever. And in goal, they're going to have the absolute legend that is Martin Brodeur. Their backup is going to be NHL analyst Kevin Weeks, who's only an 80. The Islanders are going to have Mike Comrie at an 85. That's their best player. They don't really have much else, honestly. In goal, they are going to have Rick DiPietro at an 86 overall. Man, that contract, 14-year contract. The New York Rangers are going to have Jaromir Jagr as their best player at an 89 overall. They also have Scott Gomez as an 87. In goal, they're obviously going to have Henrik Lundqvist, who's an 89 overall. The Ottawa Senators are going to be rocking with Jason Spezza at a 90, as well as Danny Alfredson and the absolute rock star that is Danny Heatley, who scored 50 goals In, I believe, '07, the Philadelphia Flyers are going to have Mike Richards. Daniel Briere is on the team. Jeff Carter is also here. Simone Gagne is on the roster, as well as a young Joffrey Lupul. And in goal, they're going to be going with Marty Byron, or Biron, I think his name is, at an 86 overall. Now, the Pittsburgh Penguins are back in their prime as they have a prime Sidney Crosby, prime Evgeny Malkin, Sergei Gonchar is on the team, Marian Hossa is there, Ryan Pink Whitney is also there at an 86 overall. Jordan Stahl's very young. They have a very good overall team, and in goal, they're rocking with Marc-Andre Fleury, who's an 86. San Jose is going to have Joe Thornton at a 92. Patrick Marleau is there at an 88, as well as Brian Campbell, who's an 87. Joe Pavelski's very young on the team. They have Evgeny Nabokov as their starting goalie at an 88 overall. The St. Louis Blues are going to have Keith Tkachuk, who's an 87. Paul Kariya is on the roster. They don't really have that good of a team, honestly. I mean, they don't right now either. Tampa Bay will have Vinny Lecavalier at a 91. Martin St. Louis is there at a 90. Dan Boyle's an 86. I don't think Stammer was drafted yet, so he's not going to be on the roster. Toronto is going to be rocking with Matt Sundin at an 89. Thomas Caberlet is there as well. A much different time for Leafs fans. Obviously, you guys don't want to think about these times too much. They got Vesa Toskala as their starting goalie as an 86 overall. Vancouver is going to have both of the Sedin sisters at an 89 overall. Daniel and Henrik. Marcus Naslund is on the team, as well as Ryan Kessler. Kevin Bieksa is back there at an 84 in goal. Obviously, Bobby Lou. Roberto Luongo, baby. My favorite goalie. 90 overall. He's 44 years old, but I think he gets reset to like a 27 once we get into franchise mode. Washington Capitals are going to have a prime Alexander Ovechkin at a 94. Alexander Semin is on the team at an 89. Nick Backstrom is there. Mike Green, who I believe scored 30 goals one season. And finally, for the Winnipeg Jets / Atlanta Thrashers, Ilya Kovalchuk will be their best player at a 91. Mark Recchi is going to be there at an 86. They didn't really have that good of a team, honestly. Also, shout out to this guy for making this roster. He made this video possible. I mean, I don't even want to think about how long this took, especially with EA Sports, and we know how slow NHL 24 can be. So, shout out to that guy for taking the time and making this entire roster. Now, before we go ahead, if you guys do enjoy videos like this, make sure you leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Turn on notifications so you don't miss a single live stream or video that I put out. And now, let's go ahead and simulate to see what would happen if EA Sports and NHL 24 simulated the 2007-2008 NHL roster. Also, boys, let me know if you want to see some players I could throw back in 07-08, like a guy like Connor McDavid or even Austin Matthews, and see how they would do in this era with different players compared to their current era. I can do a lot of fun stuff with this. I'm also going to be looking for more rosters on PlayStation that I can download and do some fun video ideas with that. So at the end of season number 1, surprisingly, the Minnesota Wild are going to finish as the best team in the NHL as they went 51, 21, and 10. They had 112 points, followed by the Philadelphia Flyers. LA was good, Montreal was up there, and the Buffalo Sabres, who, I mean, have not made the playoffs in real life over the last, 20 years, I believe. It's almost close to 20 years. Now, at the bottom of the NHL, obviously, we have Seattle and Vegas. They don't have anybody on their roster. So, besides that, the Florida Panthers were the worst team in the entire league. Alexander Ovechkin is going to end up leading everybody. Actually, him and Jason Spezza are going to tie for the most points at 100. Followed by Derek Roy's 98. Alex Semin had 94. Alfredson was up there with 94. Danny Heatley had 93. Rick Nash was a minus 15, but did have 90 points. Now for the goals in the NHL, Danny Superstar Rockstar Heatley leads with 50 on the season. So 50 in 07 and 50 in 08, baby. Followed by Rick Nash's 49. Ovi had 48. Gaborik had 42. Kovalchuk 42. Vanek had 40. I have not seen Sidney Crosby, so I'm kind of concerned with why he's not simulating that well. He is the highest overall player in the game right now. And I mean, it's a different time, boys. Only one 50-goal scorer in the entire NHL. Now, if we take a look at defensemen, Tomas Kaberle is going to lead with 75 points, followed by Mike Green, 73. Sergei Gonchar was up there with 65. Markov had 60. Boyle, 60. Spacek had 57. Now, on the goalies, Marty Biron is going to lead with 44 wins on the season, followed by Ryan Miller's 42. Lettinen had 42. J.S. Shigeru had 41. Carey Price was up there at 41. Now for the shutouts, Mika Kiprusoff will have the most at 10, followed by Fleury's 8. Shigeru had 7. And Dominic Hasek, who's on the Red Wings, only played 21 games. And in those 21 games, 7 times he did not allow a single goal. The dude was rocking a .937 save percentage and a .186 GAA. Why is he not the starter? I mean, he's only an 84, but in those backup games. And here we go in season number 1. These are our playoff matchups. Honestly, I'm shocked that the Edmonton Oilers made the playoffs, but it is what it is. It is now time to simulate and see who makes the Stanley Cup Finals. And in the Stanley Cup Finals, we have the LA Kings up against Les Montreal Canadiens. As Montreal has actually somehow got here, I guess Carey Price carried them all this way up against the LA Kings. So let's see who goes on and is going to take home the Stanley Cup at the end of year number 1. And Carey Price is going to lead the Montreal Canadiens to a Stanley Cup here in year number 1, something he cannot do in his entire NHL career. But somehow he's going to get it done here in season number 1 as Les Montreal will be Stanley Cup champions, beating the LA Kings in Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals on away ice as well. On the road, they got that clutch Game 7 victory, something so hard to do. For the Conn Smythe, it will go to Thomas Plekanec, 12 goals, and I believe 25 points, it said. I was just distracted by his turtleneck, honestly. I mean, he was literally like the only guy ever in the NHL to rock that, and he rocked it for his entire career. There it is, the Stanley Cup, about to be raised to the Montreal Canadiens for the first time since, I believe, 93 or 91. Regardless, it does not matter. Here comes their captain. Is it Saku Koivu? Number 11. It is Koivu, I believe so. He's going to come and lift it for Montreal as they are Stanley Cup champions in season number 1. Anze Kopitar is going to lead the entire playoffs in scoring with 27 points. Thomas Plekanec had 12 goals and 25 points. Frolov had 25, Higgins 24, Camilleri was up there 24, also 10 goals. Kovalev had 23. I am interested to see what Carey Price did here. 16, 8-1, 2 shutouts, some pretty good stats across the board. Nothing crazy, but not terrible either. A .922 save percentage is very good. Derek Roy is going to win the Ted Lindsay and Hart Trophy. The Art Ross to Alexander Ovechkin, and Danny Heatley will win the Maurice Richard. The Norris is going to go to Wisniewski, my bad, I absolutely butchered that. The Conn Smythe, obviously, to Plekanec. Nicholas Backstrom is going to win the Vezina, and the Selke is going to go to the Magic Man, Pavel Datsyuk. If there was one player I wish played in today's NHL, it is Datsyuk, man. Now, for season number 2, the Ottawa Senators are going to finish as the best team in the entire league, winning 52 games, followed by the Anaheim Ducks. The Dallas Stars were up there. The Minnesota Wild were good. Buffalo was good. Florida and Boston. Now, at the bottom, we have the Columbus Blue Jackets being the worst team, which is not that surprising. The Rangers being bad with Jaromir Jagr. That's kind of sad. Colorado was bad. The Islanders and Nashville. Daniel Alfredsson is going to end up leading the entire NHL in scoring with 97 points, followed by Marian Gaborik, 96. Mark Recchi had 91. Spezza was up there at 90. Bouchard had 90. Danny Heatley had a good season. Kovalchuk. Finally, Crosby, only 28 goals and 88 points. That's very disappointing. I mean, he's the highest overall at a 94. Ilya Kovalchuk is going to end up leading the entire league in goals with 51, followed by Gaborik's 49. El Cavalier had 42. Heatley had 42. Ovi was up there at 41. Vanek had 39. Malone had 36. Now, if we take a look at the defenseman here, Ed Jovanevski is going to lead with 70 points on the season. Chara had 68, so a very big season by him, also 20 goals. Scott Niedermayer had 64. Dan Boyle had 62. Brian Campbell, 59. Dion Phaneuf was up there with 18 goals and 58 points. J.S. Shiger is going to lead with 45 wins for all goalies, followed by Ryan Miller, who had 41. Gerber had 38, and Vokun 38. Now, if we take a look at the shutouts, Nikolai Habibulin is going to lead with 13 on the season, which is a lot of shutouts, followed by Nabokov's 10, Kiprasov had 8, Vokun 7, and Carey Price had 5. And here is our year number 2 playoff matchups. And in the Stanley Cup Finals, we have the New Jersey Devils up against the Minnesota Wild. I definitely did not expect Minnesota to be here. The Devils, I can see with Martin Brodeur and Zach Parise, but regardless, let's see who's going to go on and take home the Stanley Cup at the end of year number 2. And the New Jersey Devils, led by Martin Brodeur, are going to go on and win the Stanley Cup as they beat the Minnesota Wild in 6 games in the Stanley Cup Finals. So now back-to-back seasons, teams that win the Stanley Cup are going to be led by a goaltender, this time Brodeur, who might be the best goaltender ever, as the Wild were literally just no match for the Devils, who trap it up and collapse every single play. Now for the Conn Smythe, it's going to go to Zach Parise, 8 goals and 18 points. Not really the greatest stats, but remember, we are in 07-08. This is literally the dead puck era where scoring was at not an all-time low, maybe an all-time low, but close to it, as the Devils are going to be able to raise the Stanley Cup on home ice. Brodeur gets another one. I don't even know how many cups Brodeur has. Is it 3 or 4? I think it might be 3. I cannot remember. Regardless, it does not matter, as here comes the captain, number 15. I'm trying to think who was the captain this time. I can't remember. Regardless, the Devils, they're going to be raising the Stanley Cup as they are Stanley Cup champions in season number 2. Teemu Selanne is going to end up leading the playoffs in goals with 9 and points with 23. Travis Zajac at 21. Zubris at 21. Patrick Elias was up there. Ryan Getzlaf had a pretty good playoff run, I guess. I mean, the point totals are going to be down compared to what we usually see in these simulations, but it's kind of cool. Daniel Alfredsson is going to win the Ted Lindsay, Art Ross, and Hart Trophy. The Maurice Richard, the Kovalchuk, the Norris, the Zdeno Chara, the Conn Smythe, of course, the Zach Parise. Nabokov is going to take home the Vezina, and the Selke, again, is going to go to Datsuk. Now, in season number 3, the Washington Capitals are going to finish as the best team, winning 54 games, 115 points, followed by the Anaheim Ducks. Toronto was surprisingly up there, 50 wins. Pittsburgh was very good. Calgary and LA. Now at the bottom, we have the Boston Bruins as the worst team in the entire NHL, which is crazy. Marian Hossa is going to lead everybody in scoring with 93 points, followed by Joe Thornton, who had 92. Daniel Alfredsson had 91. Crosby was up there with 91. Danny Heatley had 90. Semin had 88. Now for the goals side, Ilya Kovalchuk is going to tie Eric Stahl for the most goals in the entire NHL at 45 apiece. Higgins had 44. Gabrick had 44. Ovi was up there at 43. I thought Ovi would score a little more than this, although it is the dead puck era. Semin had 41. LeCavalier had 41. Rick Nash, 39. Now for defensemen, Dion Phaneuf is going to lead with the most points at 76. Is that a career high? Sergei Gonchar had 73. Scott Niedermayer, 68. Zidlicki had 62. Markov, 61. He also was a minus 12. Hewitt is going to lead all goaltenders in wins with 43, followed by Jaguars, 42. Ellis had 42. Fleury 42, and Kiprusoff's 40. Now if we take a look at the shutouts, a whole lot of goaltenders tied for the lead at 7. Here we go yet again. This is our year number 3 playoff bracket, so we are going to simulate and see who makes the Stanley Cup Finals. And in the Stanley Cup Finals, we have the matchup that nobody saw coming between the Calgary Flames and the Buffalo Sabres. So let's see who's going to go on and take home the Stanley Cup at the end of year number 3. And somehow the Calgary Flames are going to blow a 3-1 lead in the finals, but luckily they clutched up in Game 7 to save their franchise's reputation, as Jerome McGinley is going to lead them to a Stanley Cup here in year number 3. Also, Dion Phaneuf, and their starting goaltender was Mika Kiprusoff, so do what you will with that information. As the Conn Smythe, of course, will have to go to Jerome McGinley. 10 goals, 24 points. His kids right now are absolutely tearing up in hockey. He's got a daughter who I believe plays college. She's tearing up. His Taj Aginla, I believe in the WHL or something like that, he's dominating, and he's got another kid who's very young, also dominating his league. Man, the genes in that family are absolutely crazy. As here comes Aginla coming to lift the cup, something he could not do in his NHL career, but luckily here in NHL 24, he's going to get the job done in season number 4. Or actually, it was season number 3. I messed up, but it doesn't matter. Shout out to Jerome. Iggy is going to end up leading everybody in scoring with 24 points in the playoffs, followed by Thomas Vanek, who had 22. Lango had 22 as well. Connolly, 22. Tanguay, 22. LeCavalier was up there. He was tied with Dion Phaneuf. They both had 20. LeCavalier did end up having 13 goals in 19 games, which is wild. Marian Hossa is going to win the Ted Lindsay, Art Ross, and Hart Trophy. The Maurice Richard to Eric Stahl. The Norris to Dion Phaneuf. The Conn Smythe to Jerome McGinley. J.S. Jaguar is going to end up winning the Vezina, and the Selke again for 3 years in a row will go to Pavel Datsuk. Now, at the end of season number 4, Washington again is going to finish as the best team in the regular season, winning 53 games, followed by the Nashville Predators, who won 50. Colorado won 48. Buffalo's up there, as well as Chicago and Detroit. Now at the bottom, we have the St. Louis Blues, who only won 30 games. New Jersey was down there. Arizona was bad, as well as the Montreal Canadiens, who did win the Stanley Cup in, I believe, season number 1, but now they are completely washed. Daniel Alfredsson is going to be the first player to crack 100 points in a long time here, as he's going to lead with 105, followed by Ovi, who had 102. Danny Heatley had 99. Spezza was up there. Jerome McGinley had 93. Semin, 92. Now for the goal side, Alexander Ovechkin is going to lead with 59 goals on the season, followed by Danny Heatley's 42. Semin had 40. Jerome McGinley had 39. Eric Stahl, 39. And Rick Nash is 38. Sergei Gonchar is going to lead all D-man in scoring with 67 points, followed by Thomas Caberlet, 65, Dion Phaneuf had 65, Lidstrom, 64, Mike Green had 63, Spacek had 63, Ryan Miller is going to tie with Jose Theodore, who had the most wins at 44, followed by Marty Turcos, 42, Chris Osgood had 41, Kiprusoff, 40. Now if we take a look at the shutouts, Dan Ellis is going to lead with 10 on the season, followed by Tim Thomas's 7. This is our year number 4 playoff bracket, so we are going to see who advances to the Stanley Cup Finals. And now in the Stanley Cup Finals, yet again, we have the Minnesota Wild making it, but they are up against the Carolina Hurricanes. So let's see who goes on and ends up winning the Stanley Cup at the end of year number 4. And the Minnesota Wild are finally going to get it done here in year number 4 as they go on and beat the Carolina Hurricanes in 6 games in the Stanley Cup Finals. Nothing like seeing Carolina choke when it matters the most, man. As Minnesota, who does not have the greatest team, is somehow going to go on and win it all here in year number 4. I did not see this coming whatsoever, going to be honest with you guys. The Conn Smythe is going to go to Nicholas Backstrom. He won 16 games, a 203 GAA, and a 935 save percentage, which is very good, so I guess that Conn Smythe was well-deserved. And there it is, the Stanley Cup about to be presented to the Minnesota Wild for the first time in their franchise's history, I believe so. As here comes their captain. Who was their captain? Was it Mikko Koivu, number 10? Back in 08, I think it was Koivu. Regardless, it is not. Is that Marian Gaborik? Regardless, whoever it is, he's going to lift the Stanley Cup for Minnesota for the very first time in franchise history, as it is Marian Gaborik. Shout out to him, man. Absolute legend. Eric Stahl and Matt Cullen are going to tie for the most points in the playoffs at 22, followed by Evgeny Malkin's 21. He only played 17 games, though. Bouchard had 20. Dimitra had 19. Gaborik only had 18, but also 12 goals. Alfie, again, is going to take him to Ted Lindsay, Art Ross, and Hart Trophy. The Maurice Richard will go to Alexander Ovechkin. The Norris, again, to Dion Phaneuf. The Conn Smythe, of course, went to Nicholas Backstrom. The Vezina to Ellis, and the Selke will go to Pollock, who is on the Vegas Golden Knights. Now for the final season, Le Montreal is going to have a bounce-back year, being the best team in the entire league, winning 52 games. Followed by the Minnesota Wild. They were good. LA was good. Washington was up there. Pittsburgh and Colorado now at the bottom. New York Islanders are always bad. St. Louis and Chicago, as well as Les Toronto Maple Leafs, or Maple Laughs, I should say, as they are a embarrassment of a franchise. Alexander Ovechkin is going to end up leading in goals with 58 and points with 107, followed by my bad. Alexander Ovechkin is going to end up leading in goals with 58 and points with 107, followed by Derek Roy, who had 96. Marian Hossa had 92. Malkin, 91. Dimitra was up there at 91. Kovalev had 89. Alfie had a good season himself. Now for goals, other than Ovi, there was a big drop-off to Marian Gaborik, who only had 44 goals. Vanek had 43, Kovalchuk 41, and Kovalev 38. If we take a look at defensemen, Jovanovski is going to lead with 70, followed by Markov 68. Mike Green had 66, only 17 goals, though. Brian Campbell at 65, Spacek 62. Nicholas Backstrom is going to lead all goalies in wins with 46, followed by Jose Theodore's 42. Carey Price had 40, and Cam Ward's 39. Ryan Miller, J.S. Shigear, Legase, and Javi Bulin, Kiprusoff, Osgood are all going to tie for the lead at 6 shutouts on the season. And here we go. This is our 5th and final playoff run of the video. So let's see who advances to the Stanley Cup Finals. And in the Stanley Cup Finals, we have the Calgary Flames going for their 2nd Stanley Cup up against the Carolina Hurricanes, who I believe lost last season in the finals. So we are going to see if Calgary can win their 2nd of the video, or if Carolina can get the revenge and finally go on and win a Stanley Cup. And the Calgary Flames are going to completely mop the floor with the Carolina Hurricanes, sweeping them in the Stanley Cup Finals to go on and win their 2nd cup of the video. Jerome McGinley is the leader of all leaders right now, winning his 2nd. Obviously, in real life, he didn't get a single one, but here in only 5 years, they're going to win 2 of them. And Carolina, you guys should be absolutely embarrassed. I mean, you got swept. Wasn't even a close series whatsoever. Literally dominated the entire time, as Mika Kiprusoff is going to win the Conn Smythe with amazing stats as well. A 939 save percentage is amazing for the playoffs, as finally Flames fans are going to have something to cheer for, as they are going to see their team lift the Stanley Cup for the 2nd time in 5 seasons. As here comes their captain, Jerome McGinley, coming to lift it again, as the Calgary Flames are, I guess, a little mini dynasty. I wouldn't really say that, but it is what it is. They got 2 Stanley Cups in the video. Jerome McGinley is going to end up leading the entire playoffs in scoring with 22 points, followed by Eric Stahls, 21. Rod Brindamore was up there. He did have 12 goals. Marian Gaborik had a pretty good postseason. Marty St. Louis, who's been very quiet the simulation, hasn't really, or I haven't really noticed him at all, honestly. Alexander Ovechkin's going to take home all the individual awards. The Norris is going to go to Markov, the Conn Smythe to Kiprusoff, the Vezina to J.S. Shiger, and the Selke will end up going to Datsugi yet again. And that is going to do it for this video, boys. The Calgary Flames were the best team in the entire video. Let me know in the comments below if you would like to see me put some players from today's NHL back in 07-08. I can put like Connor McDavid in there for 5 years, maybe throw Austin Matthews as well. See how good they would do in that era compared to their own. If you guys did enjoy the video, make sure you support it. I would like to say thank you all for watching, and until next time, don't be silly. Wrap your willy. Also, we will be dropping merch very shortly, so stay tuned for that. Past the merch will be official. You guys can order it from my website. It is almost ready to launch, so get ready for that.